I go by the name RC3, and I am your host. And with me today is my co-host.
Hi, good morning or good afternoon. My name is Mayra Gutierrez and Cody CAG. I am with Latinos for America First. I am the state director, and we're going to be bringing you a show with different point of views here, myself and Rowley.
Awesome. You can find my podcast on Spotify. It is the RC3 podcast. And like I said, it is on Spotify. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on Facebook. And I look forward to seeing you there. This show is something completely different that we're trying to do. It's called Battle Lines. And the reason why we've called it Battle Lines is because, as you're going to find out, me and Myra disagree on a lot of things, but we also agree on a lot of things. And in those areas of disagreement, we really don't mind drawing swords, for lack of a better term, right? And so we're going to talk about things that are relevant in the news, things that are relevant in the culture war. And I hope you will join us because it's going to be fun. And I'm excited to bring different perspectives to the same old tired arguments. So, Myra.
Well, yeah, I've known Raleigh for a while, and like I said, like he said, we do agree on some things, but the majority of the topics that you will see along the show is that we don't have the same perspective. I consider myself a strong conservative. He's more of a. What would you consider yourself, Raleigh?
Well, I mean, just so people know where I'm coming from. I've been a Republican my entire life up until around 2019, and that doesn't mean I'm a Democrat. So just throwing that out there. But I voted for Bush as soon as I was eligible to vote when I was 18 in 2004. Then I voted for John McCain. I voted for Mitt Romney. I voted for Trump in 2016. And after his first term, I decided that the guy was a nightmare and I wasn't going to vote for him in 2020. I didn't vote for Joe Biden, and I just thought I'd throw that out there. So we're going to get into the reasons why. I'm pretty sure along as the show's passing by. But I would classify myself as a social libertarian, and I'm economically on the left. So I mean, socially, I don't care what people do as long as they don't hurt others. That includes whatever sexual lifestyle they want to have. That includes, whatever socially. I mean, if you want to praise God, and if that's the lifestyle you want to have, knock yourself out. I'm all for it. If you want to be an atheist, knock yourself out. I'm all for it. Freedom, baby, freedom. So, on economics, I'm not America first. I'm Americans first. I want the money that is being sent to foreign countries instead to be spent here on Americans, on infrastructure, on better
Mhm.
healthcare, on better education. That's the way I see things economically, and I'm ready to defend it. And I can't wait for it.
Well, that's one of the things. I mean, America first, American first. That's what it is. We want the money. We want the help to stay with Americans. One of the things that we advocate for first is to take care of our veterans before anybody else. Americans, people that have been here, paying taxes, working themselves to death. A lot of people, they should come first over anybody that this country helps.
I don't disagree with you,
That's part of America first. Just so
but
you
but
know.
I think it's also good to note that we shouldn't make one the enemy of the other. So, for example, we can do both. We can help other people. Like one of the arguments that I find bewildering, and to be honest with you, I can't get on board with that, is the fact that whenever we have a migrant crisis on the border, I hear a lot of conservatives say something like, "Well, why are we giving them baby formula when we have people in America who need baby formula?" And I think to myself, "Wow, that is such a disgusting thing to say."
Well, what
And
it's you got to understand where that's coming from. We're not saying let the children, die, starve. Where it's coming from is that we don't have enough to go around for our families, our children, our grandchildren that are here. So why are we allowing our supply to go down, completely go down, and have warehouses and warehouses filled for the illegals that are coming across?
Right. And my response to that would be is the reason why I say it's disgusting is because it makes illegals, it makes babies, people who have no agency in the situation, the enemy, when it deflects and when the pressure and the center of the discussion should be on the people that caused the shortage to begin
Hmm.
with. And if you have looked into the reason why there was a shortage, it's because Abbott and their corporate and their shareholders wanted, instead of following protocol and following the regulations on how to produce baby formula to save money, what they did was they produced batches of formula that were dangerous to babies. I think like 2 or 3 babies died because of that, right?
Hmm.
So it was corporate greed that was behind that. It was cronyism, and it was unfortunately the profit motive that's so prevalent in capitalism that caused this shortage. But where have you heard that on mainstream conservative news? I mean, when last time I turned on Laura Ingraham, she was making it seem like illegal babies were the real crooks here,
Well,
when in fact the real crooks are known. And the less that light that we shine on those people, the more that these problems are going to
I
happen.
I have seen it on Epoch. I have seen it on other news media about Abbott. That's
Well, that's good.
I don't listen to Fox News. I don't listen to any of those mainstream channels. I
I listen
honestly
to Fox
don't.
News, so you don't have to.
Thank you. No, it's been over a year since I've actually turned on any source of TV or gone into their news feed or anything like that, because just like every other news is kind of, they just want to show you what they want to show you,
Right.
and we've seen that.
That's very true. Yeah. It's not, it's the they call them lies of omission. It's not what they show you that's important. It's what's hiding in the other hand. But then that's not only Fox News. That's mainstream media all across the board.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it's all about profit motive, and it's all about keeping people's attention by telling them what they already want to hear.
Yeah, but I mean, if you talk about, I mean, because you brought out about the conservatives and the babies, there's a lot of conservatives out in the border speaking out for the children that are human, that are
That's
being
true.
trafficked.
Hmm.
So we're not this evil. We do care about the children. There's a whole campaign about Save the Children, because they are being used and abused and recycled by the cartels, and it's a humanitarian issue
Right.
affecting the babies and how they're used. A lot of them are kidnapped, a lot of them are sold by parents or sent by parents that feel that that's the only way. Or we know how it is in the thinking in Mexico, like in indigenous places where their
Correct.
thought is very different. um, they actually trust a lot of the people that they send the children to.
Mm.
So it's, we do care about the children.
Right. Right. And again, like that's not to say that's not the case. The only point I'm making is that the people that drown, the voices that drown out the people who care that are on the border, it's usually people who are, affected directly, who live on the border. The people who drown those voices out are the mainstream conservative voices that get all the views.
I have a lot of friends that are not from the valley. I think I have more friends that are outside the valley than I do here. So there are a lot of people that are speaking out for the children.
I don't doubt that. Yeah. But my only point is that they I wish they would get airtime on when mainstream conservative news, and I
Mm.
frankly don't see that they do. But I guess this let's get on to the news of the week. So as we now know, it's been about it's approaching a week that Myra Flores just captured the seat for District 34 here in South Texas, and there's been some interesting developments in that. I know we haven't talked about it specifically on this show. Is there anything specifically that you want to say about that?
Well, I mean, for people, because we are from the area where Myra Flores won the election. Since this show is in different areas of the country, we are from South Texas, so I am familiar with her. Rowley is very familiar with her. That was a special election, and it was won under the different district that is no longer going to be in November. So come November, that is going to be very, very different. One of the things that we wanted to talk about, that I wanted to talk to you about, was about November. Are we going to expect the same result? Because it's going to be a very different district. And we know, both you and I have discussed, that during the special elections, the Democrats kind of set back and really didn't care to win the special election,
Right.
didn't put the money or the effort.
Yes, that's very true. And I tell this story that up until election night, my dad asked me, "Hey, how's Myra Flores doing in the election?" And I was like, "I think she's up." And then he tells me, Who's she running against again?" And I go, "She's running against Dan Sanchez." And he goes, "¿Quién es ese? Who's that?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's goes to show you how when you don't have the money back in your campaign, your visibility is next to nothing. And if people don't know who you are, how do you expect them to vote for you? Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just that simple, basic. Now that doesn't go because let's say, and I want to give Myra a lot of credit here because let's say you put them on the same financial level. She just out hustled Dan Sanchez. She was everywhere.
But
She did my podcast. I invited Dan Sanchez to do my podcast. I didn't hear back from him. You
But
know,
the thing is that Myra has been campaigning way before Dan Sanchez.
yes, that's true.
That's another
That's
thing. She's been on this campaign since, I believe, she started the exploratory campaign back in 2020 is really when she started campaigning, knowing that she was going to run for Congress. Because
right, but that should have put Dan Sanchez on hyper overdrive because I'm pretty sure
Mhm.
his politicals, his insiders knew that fact. And like I said, I invited them to the podcast. I've had friends who invited him on the podcast, and he was just unwilling, or he was just held back. I mean, the guy's not. I mean, this is not to be mean, but the guy's very unhealthy. He's not in any kind of shape. Campaigning, it is a physical hassle. Like it, you need to have the energy. You need to have the
Mhm.
wherewithal to be out there block walking. You know about this, to be
Yeah.
out there
Mhm.
house by house. I didn't see him doing that.
I
His
did hear about him campaigning or being out and trying to, the block walk or the phone bank. I did hear some people of him trying to do that, but also that takes resources and money. And when you're running for a seat like in Congress, that's when, I mean, being the Democrat candidate, the Democrats should have, thrown up more than what they did, but they
right.
didn't really care to win that seat at this time. They wanted the
Yes.
Republicans to outspend them to save their money for November,
Yeah. I mean
which
that you,
November it's going to be very different, the
it's
district
gonna it's
lines.
it's gonna be very very different. But I will say, look, again, purposes of full disclosure, Myra reached out to me when after we did our podcast where we had Johnny on and Myra. She
Hmm.
reached out to me the next day and she told me that she had seen the podcast. And she sounded a little disappointed with the way we covered her. But the one thing that I really appreciate about Myra is that she's always willing to take good criticism and to take it into consideration. Like I said, when I had her on the podcast, I hit her hard on things that I didn't agree with things that she was saying. I hit her hard on cancel culture. I hit her hard on you know the big lie. I hit her hard on January 6th. All of these things that I think a person running for Congress, it's important for people to know where you stand on issues. But the point that I'm trying to get at is she came in here, she showed face, she defended herself, and I respect that. And I can't say the same for Dan Sanchez.
Well,
She's very visible.
mhm.
And come November, if you think that she's just going to roll over and die, and that
Oh no.
it's not going to be a close election, and that the Republicans aren't trying to reproduce the same victory that happened in June, in November, then I think people are. discounting her. And
No, no, we know that. I mean, I know, and you know that I'm not a supporter of Myra Flores. I'm
yes, I
full
know that.
disclosure. I'm not a supporter. There's things that she said that I don't agree on, but she's gonna fight. They're gonna throw more money into it. Um, they're raising money not only for her but for Abbott and Monica and other candidates. But what was I gonna, but I mean, I don't know if the same results are going to come about. Myra has been somebody that has been groomed by the GOP, so she knows that she has to be visible. She knows that she has to be in front of people. So
Right.
I mean, she's a smart girl. She's going to go to wherever they invite her. She's going to make herself. Um, she's going to get that spotlight.
Because it's
And the
politics,
spotlight
right?
that she
Yeah.
has now, it's she has a big spotlight on her, so she's not going to waste the spotlight that you give her.
Right.
Just
But so, okay, so let me ask you as a conservative, because in November you are going to have the option. Um, but you're in CD 15, not
Mhm,
34. But let's just say you were in 34. You do have the option of Vicente Gonzalez
mhm.
against Myra Flores. You may not agree with everything that Myra Flores has to offer, but at least you know that she's accessible and that she's willing to listen. I mean, wouldn't you vote for her anyway over Vicente Gonzalez?
I would not vote for either one.
Still, you still wouldn't
I
vote
would
for her?
not vote. No. Mm-mm.
Okay, on
I'm very
principle.
strong to my principles. I'm strong to the things that I believe in. And if I vote for somebody that I strongly disagree with, I'm just going against myself. So I would not vote for my own conscience.
What about the idea that if you, I mean, voting for Myra is going to push the policies that you most agree with
Mhm.
more into the forefront, as opposed to if Vicente Gonzalez wins, the opposite happens.
They're both mouthpieces of their party. So she is not going to fight for the stuff that a lot of some of the stuff that I really really strongly, you know, advocate for. It's going to be more for what the party is echoing. She's going to echo it once, or she's going to echo it. So I would not vote for somebody that is going to choose party over the people.
Okay, well, I guess that's kind of my what my view was in 2020,
So you see.
which is why I didn't vote.
Mhm.
I just wanted to pick your brain on that
Yeah,
a little
no,
bit.
I have to be able to sleep at night. I have to be able to. I am one that I linger into my decisions, and it bothers me when I do something against what I believe in, strongly stand for. So I know that if I would vote for either one, it would not sit well with me.
Would you still sleep at night knowing that Vicente Gonzalez would cast the deciding vote on something that just so violated your principles, and knowing that your support for a candidate that you didn't choose at the very beginning, but nonetheless would at least stand on the right side of the issues in your mind? Would you still sleep better at night knowing that
It
that would be the case?
it will bother me, and I will, it's going to be something that I'm going to have to live with well. But either candidate is not going to stand. She's going to choose the Kevin McCarthy, the party, the money over the people.
Right. But won't Kevin McCarthy and the party still nudge the direction of the country more along the lines to what you believe in, as opposed to Nancy Pelosi?
They're driving the country to what's better and filling their pockets. It's about them. It's no longer about the country. And we've seen it. Um it's about getting themselves through and saving themselves, their money, their investments that they've made
Right.
over the people.
Listen, I don't
So
disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. I'm just
mhm,
trying to flesh out your brain here a little bit, just to know where it is you stand. Because there's a lot of most politicians are like that, right? Most
mhm,
politicians, only care about lining their pockets. I know you're a big
mhm.
fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene, and there's this. I mean, to me, it was just. I think she's a fraud, and let me just give you an example of why I think so. Um, she filibustered in Congress against spending in Ukraine. And she made the same argument, why are we sending billions to Ukraine while when we could, be spending it on baby formula here, just unaware of the way capitalism works and the way free markets work, right? But a week before that tweet that she had invested heavily, hundreds of thousands of dollars in military industrial complex stock, knowing that she was gonna make out like a bandit when the defense contractors, got all the federal subsidies for the war in Ukraine, and she got called out on it. But I didn't hear anybody from the right call her out on it. It's
Mm.
always it's that level of just in your face blatant hypocrisy that my voters are too dumb to understand what it is I'm doing in broad daylight, and they're going to vote for me anyway. I feel like there's a huge movement right now, mainly in the Republican Party, to speak like you're for the people, like you're some kind of populist, like you are fighting for America and for Americans, yet you pass the same legislation for the oligarchs. You pass the same legislation for the rich. You support the same wars. You support the same deregulation for, well, for the rich. And it's
There,
like there has to be somebody that walks the walk, but not only talks the talk, but also walks the walk. But it's like as soon as you get to Washington, the pressures around you are such that even people who intentionally went in there to do good things just follow the pressure.
there are, I mean, no candidate is perfect. No person is perfect. We're going to agree to disagree with a lot of things. Marjorie Taylor Greene is somebody that I will support and I do support. And I is she perfect? No. I mean, but does she speak for the people? She does speak. She's out there defending the things that I strongly support. Um, I didn't know about that. That I see some things and I don't see some things,
Right.
but I I have a life. My life is not all politics, but I do the thing that you told me right now about her buying stock. She did it as a private citizen. She still voted against the money to Ukraine. Is
Right.
that what you're
But
telling me?
no, 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 no. No, because there was no vote to send money to Ukraine. Joe Biden has the authority under
Mm.
some act passed under the Bush administration to be able to send aid over there. So there was no vote on this. What I'm saying is that you still have to hold people accountable.
Yeah.
If you're out in public crying out against the war in Ukraine, yet profiting from the war profiteers, I mean, let me ask you: is that not hypocrisy? Is that not hypocrisy of the worst kind?
Is there hypocrisy? Yeah, I mean, there's hypocrisy basically in everything. I think I've done it myself. We're all guilty of some type of hypocrisy.
Right, but that's not hypocrisy that you would forgive if it were, let's say, Dan Crenshaw. That's not hypocrisy that you would forgive if it was, let's say,
Dan Crenshaw
Governor
wants
Abbott.
to take. Dan Crenshaw is voting for red flag laws. Dan Crenshaw has done more against the Patriot movement than Marjorie Taylor Greene has. Abbott has left our borders unsecured. Abbott has refused to talk to a lot of angel families. Abbott has taken money from one of the biggest Democrat donors and still does whatever he's in his pocket. So it's you weigh out the good and the bad, and to me Abbott has more bad than he does good in into where I stand. Is
And
he
and
your
then,
candidate? He could be your candidate, but he's not my candidate.
right, and then just so I'm clear on the facts here, this is Newsweek. Marjorie Taylor Greene bought defense stock day before slamming profitable war. I mean, this is Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene purchased stock in a major defense contractor just one day before sending a tweet that appeared to criticize profiting from war. So you criticize profiting from war, then you profit from war. Like that's what she's being called out on. Like that's just not, oh, it's just hypocrisy that we can turn a blind eye to. That's hypocrisy. That's just, it goes down to the quality of person that you are. Uh, but I mean, we don't want to spend all hour on Marjorie Taylor Greene. At least I don't. So anyway, let's get to some culture war. These are my favorite topics here. Have you seen Lightyear?
No.
No, you
Mm.
are you gonna see it?
No, I don't watch a lot of stuff, so
No,
I
you do.
haven't been to the movies in a very long time. I don't have Netflix, I don't have Hulu, I don't have any of that.
Really?
Hmm.
Hmm. So you
I
don't
don't watch
you just
anything.
don't watch a lot of movies.
I don't
I
watch
don't.
anything.
Oh, interesting. I don't watch a lot of stuff either, to be honest.
I
But
haven't seen
I
any
did
of
go.
the new Marvels or anything like that. Nothing.
Oh, I did go see Lightyear. And the controversy around Lightyear was, and it's being banned right now in several countries, mainly Muslim countries, because of the lesbian scene. Now, by the lesbian scene, I mean, and it's maybe like a 3 minute or 2 minute monologue from where Buzz Lightyear is trying to accomplish some kind of mission in space, right? But every time he goes to space, he burns 4 years on this planet that they're from. So he comes back, you know, unaged, but everybody on this planet has aged by 4 years. So they're doing this thing where he goes and he comes, and every 4 years they're showing the transition from uh from his friends as they're getting older, right? And so one of his closest friends in the movie is a female who is in a relationship with another female, right? And as they're going back and forth, they show them kiss, and they basically show them, raising a family, right? Now that's caused a stir in a lot of, you know in a lot of countries. Like I said, it's been banned, but a lot of conservatives here in America have been uh, wanting for the movie to get canceled. They've been. I mean, what's the better term? Triggered by the scene, and and they're asking for a safe space. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. Do you think that movies like this, do you think they sexualize children?
I think it confuses children. To me, I am a very free speech person, and if I see something that I don't want to see, or I don't want to take my granddaughter, I just won't take her.
Right,
It's your option to go, but it's hard to tell a child. I would understand, like, it's a cartoon, they want to see it,
right.
but there is a lot of targeting going on right now to the children. There is a lot of confusion being built up on the children. It's they're at a young tender age, and why bring something that is going to confuse a child, that it's going to it's going to create different thoughts from the norm to the child when they're too young at that age.
Do you think, like, this term sexualization, because sexualization has been in Disney movies since the very beginning. Sexualization has been in Disney movies, or in just, I mean, in cartoons since the very beginning. I mean, when you have a heterosexual couple, kiss, you know, that's, some could say that's sexualization. In fact, conservatives of the 50s and 60s did argue that that was sexualization, and they fought to have basic scenes between heterosexuals removed from cartoons and from movies. Um, so now we fast forward, and we're in this era where I think homosexuality has been, I mean, for the most part, accepted by most, right? I separate, homosexuality from transgenderism. I think those are two completely
Hmm.
different conversations. But what are your thoughts on? I guess, like, let's just get down to the basics, just on homosexuals.
I I believe I accept people for who they are. If you do what makes you happy, as long as you're not hurting anybody, kind of like you
Correct.
say, you don't groom a child, you don't target children. If you're two consenting adults, you're two consenting adults. Should I think that it should be overexposed the way we have it? I Why do that? Why create an overexposure of it
Right.
if you want to be treated like everybody else?
Correct.
I
And
don't I don't get that. Like, I
and,
mean,
and I don't disagree with you. Uh, I think there has been an over sexualization of children across the board. I mean, just period. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I say it, even heterosexuals, even
Right.
with videos and the way everything, the movies, everything the way it is, even with normal like scenes, they try to sexualize everything,
Right.
music, videos,
Commercials.
movies, commercials,
Commercials.
the
Right.
sex sells thing, that it's getting worse and worse and worse. I mean, we see a lot of targeting towards children lately, though. There's been a lot of grooming, a lot of trying to make things normal. It is normal to take a child to a strip club. I mean, we have this thing that happened in
Where's
Dallas.
where's that normal?
In Dallas, where they took it was a strip club. It was, drag queens doing strip dances. I mean, they didn't take clothes off, but they were sexually dancing and letting the kids put money in their panties
Oh my
with their
gosh.
parents. To me, that's sexualizing
With
children.
their parents?
We're the parents. So to me, both parents and
Holy
the
shit.
clubs are guilty. I wouldn't take my daughter to a regular strip club, not even to see a guy or anything. I mean, it shouldn't be done
Right.
in the gay community. It shouldn't be done in the straight community. That is sexualizing the children,
Right.
grooming them to think that's normal. And this is where we have the problem with pedophiles.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you even a little bit. I can't even begin to try to come up with what the argument would be for allowing children to go see a drag show. I can't even begin to even form an argument for what the argument would look like to be pro child attending a drag queen show. Like,
Oh, I mean, they said, whoever was out there trying to, expose it and call attention to this, we were just called homophobics. We were just called, that we weren't accepting. But also, I mean, there's schools. There was a school in Houston where the dad went to testify that his son was taken to a drag show and they were sitting next to pedophiles, registered pedophiles.
jeez,
Even from elementary to high school, that is not right.
no,
I
it's
mean,
not. That's not right.
it's up to the parents. It's up to teach their children, about sex, homosexuality, what it means in the world, or whatever. It's not up to the school to be grooming their
But
children.
okay, so on that last point, that's in a perfect world, right? Because my parents never talked to me about sex. So it was left up. Not, I mean, my teachers didn't even talk to me about sex. I had to learn about it on my own, right? And I
Hmm.
learned about it from friends. I learned about it from the streets, right? Because I mean, let's be honest, parents don't always feel comfortable or have the communication skills to talk about these kind of issues.
That was our parents. Like, it's a different
Right.
generation.
Right. Well, I know,
I
but
mean,
I'm just trying to.
mhm.
I'm just. Well, I mean, at least we had parents. You know, a lot of these kids don't have. I mean, are raised by single parents, and I think the
Hmm.
cases of single parenthoods are up. And again, like single parents work. Sometimes with the economy that we have to do, sometimes they have to work two jobs. So who raises the children if not the schools and the streets, right? So there is a case to be made at an appropriate age, to which the basics of sexual education should be
Hmm.
taught, right? Um, Whoever makes the case that it's a good age at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to expose your children to these kind of things is a maniac. I mean, it's lunatics. Seriously, I mean, it's disgusting.
To me, people that are doing that, they're trying to make children think that this is normal. So when something goes so when something gets done to a child, like sexual abuse, pedophile, they're trying to normalize pedophilia. That's what I see happening in a lot of the situations. They want to make it seem it's okay to touch an adult, where you're putting stuff into their underwear. That is not normal. That is not right.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you even a little bit. But going back to Lightyear, because we're kind of straying away from the main conversation here. The way I saw it, because I did take my boys. It's 1-6, 1-3, and they weren't even aware of what was going on. on in it to even ask the basic questions, right? They weren't even. So I feel like this is my position on it, because I do feel like there's a lot of just over exaggeration on even the most basic kind of things, right? It's like, if we agree that like homosexuality is here with us, and it's, I mean, it's a normal part of our daily existence. I know people who are both lesbian and gay. Some of the best people I know are lesbian and, and gay. Some of my friends, like I said, some of my people in my circle live that kind of a lifestyle. And to me, they're no different than anybody else. Now, would I tell them, hey, look, my children are around, don't be gay? No, I don't say that. Well, what kind of friend would I be? That gives away the game in my eyes. Hey, my children are around. You're not allowed to be who you are. No, if we've accepted people at a base level of of their humanity, of who they are, then that comes also with a responsibility. Now, I think a lot of the arguments that conservatives make is exposing kids to lesbians kissing or whatever is going to turn them into that.
It
And the
doesn't
and,
turn them into that. It confuses them.
well,
It
well,
confuses them.
I mean, my only rebuttal to that would be is that if that were the case, we've had an entire history of movies and cartoons with heterosexuals kissing, and we still have a bunch of gay people. So if just the act of seeing two people, kissing turned people a certain way, then we would have a lot less gay people than we do. You know, uh, it's I don't think they're good arguments.
To me, it's not that it turns them gay. It confuses children. We have more children when we started, when the whole acceptance, the whole pride started, and there are more children confused. I have my son myself, for a time there, he thought he was gay. He was so confused, he didn't know. I never thought, I mean, when I went to school, yes, we had, I can count them like gay or lesbians, but the majority of the people that went to school with me were not confused. They were gay, they were gay. Nowadays, we have children, we have the youth that are confused because it's become, yeah, it's normal, but it's everywhere. It's thrown at you, where these children are barely getting to know themselves, getting to build themselves up, knowing who they are, getting their little personalities, and then we throw something that is not in the norm, because it is not in the norm, and it confuses them. It confuses children at such a tender young age.
Well, 'cause I mean, homosexuality is not in the majority. That I
It's
grant,
not in the
but
norm.
but it doesn't mean that it's not in the norm. I mean, we've always had homosexual. I mean, we go back to before biblical times. Like with the
Yeah,
homosexuals
Socrates
have
or
always
Buddhism.
existed. And like,
Hmm.
let me ask you, like, do you think somebody wants to be gay, or do you think somebody chooses to be gay?
I don't. Some do. I know that there are people that do, but I have a friend that's gay. He didn't choose to be gay. When
Right.
he came out gay, he got kicked out of his house, and
Yeah.
we took him in. My dad, we he stayed with us for a month, but a lot of, they don't choose. It's something that I see that it's in them, and
Right. But so I mean,
but
to them, that's the norm. Like to them, like they don't see themselves as, or maybe they do see themselves as that because our culture has viewed things like for example, like there's one thing that I disagree with you on, and the fact that there wasn't any confusion when, for example, when we were going to school. I don't think people came out of the closet like the way they are now. I don't think people were even allowed to be confused in public about their sexuality because of how it was viewed, you know. And so now you have a situation where, like, we had gay marriage legalized when, was it 2014, 15, under Obama. And slowly, I mean, Hillary Clinton ran in 2008 opposed to gay marriage. I mean, just in the last 10 years, there's been so much change
mhm,
within this community in its acceptance, excuse me. And even when you look at public polling, just the numbers of people who are accepting of it, because now we know people personally from this community. right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we know. I mean, back then we had suspicions. Look, I think that dude's gay. You know, there's no suspicions anymore. Now we know people personally in our families, close friends who are a part of this community. So the conversation has changed to how we view things, and people just don't feel that sense of
I understand what you mean. Yes, it's becoming more out there. It's becoming like you see a two men or two women holding hands in a restaurant. You see it two heterosexuals holding
right.
hands, but the children are still at a young age. They're still at a tender age. Even my daughter's, like when she sits and she's 14, if she sees this, she's like, it's to her, it's not yet normal. And she's 14. She grew up, I mean, she sees it. She has friends in junior high that think that they're gay already, that they say they're gay. One semester, the next semester, oh no, I'm not gay anymore. So it's confusing children. It's trying to, they're not letting them find their identity. It's just confusing them.
Right.
That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
And
I
I don't
mean,
think it belongs in a Disney movie or in a cartoon or any.
well, like I said, I mean, to me personally, I don't see the difference between uh two. If I mean, if we're gonna let cartoons be, kissing each other and we're gonna allow that kind of sexualization, then I don't see why one is outrageous, and then the other one in the same topic is we should want that banned or we should want that canceled. Like I said, I wouldn't tell somebody, a close friend of mine, hey, listen, I got my kids are around. You can't be you, man. You can't be you, or or you're not welcome here because I can't allow my children to see you in a not normal relationship because it's gonna offend my it's gonna confuse my children. Listen, I think I don't know. I think there's no that there's confusion if there's no education. I think educating our children combats the confusion. And
Mm,
the reason why parents don't want to educate their children about these things is because I really don't think they're very accepting of the lifestyle yet.
no, at such a young age, let's say 5, 6, and I know you have young boys. What really are you teaching them about a relationship? About it's confusing to them. I see it as confusing. I see it as, especially when they grow up in a, it's very different when you grow up in a gay relationship, I guess, because
Right.
that's their norm. But when you grow up in a heterosexual household and you see, and that's the norm, it is considered the norm. It is normal. I mean, I'm sorry, but it is the norm of heterosexual. There's a man and there's a woman. Children get confused.
Possibly.
I do
Um,
see it. I mean, I'm not gonna deny that a heterosexual relationship, that is a norm. That is a normal.
well, I mean, that is the I mean the natural norm,
That
I
is
guess.
a
I
natural. That is a
guess you could say.
normal. I mean,
Um,
we were a man and a woman to reproduce.
right. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that conversation is. I mean, it's not really relevant though because regardless whether it's the norm or whether it's natural, these cases exist and there's a lot of them, right? And they exist even among animals. Like homosexuality exists even among animals. Like there's been documented cases of I don't know what species that they're rampant in this kind of behavior. I mean, there's no culture in that species. I mean,
Well,
so
it's. I mean, I think
there's no
we're
Disney movies
more
being shown to
advanced than animals, so we should know better than that.
there's no Disney movies being shown to certain species that are turning them gay. It's just
I'm not
you know, I
gonna.
mean,
No, Cody's very, very strict.
Cody's very very strict. I hope so.
Yeah, no, I was talking
But
about my dog.
What's
No,
that?
my dog's name is Cody. That's why.
Right.
Sorry, I took his name. But I just we're gonna. I don't know if we're disagreeing here, but
We're not disagreeing on much. We're not
I
disagreeing on
don't
much.
think it belongs to in a kids movies. I
And
really
I,
don't.
I I don't think it's good to sexualize children at a early age. But let's talk about other things that isn't good for children at an early age. I had a podcast last time. We were talking about the whole gun situation, right? And guns in our culture, right? How they're such a normal part of our lives. I have pictures of me as a 4 year old with like a holster with guns, right? And I would go around pretending to shoot Indians, right? Now, a lot of people argue that that's not normal, that that's pretty. I don't know. I mean, going around pretending to kill
Even going
people.
like this is not normal anymore.
I mean,
Like
well,
doing the gun.
right, but that's what I'm saying. And so, and this came to my mind because, again, like I got kids, 6 years. I got two boys, 6 year old and a 3 year
Mhm.
old, and I was cleaning their room last time, and I see guns everywhere, right? Guns like Nerf guns, even guns that look real. And my 3 year old, 3 years old, picks one up, shoots me, and then just like a robot, like automatic. I just pretend to die, and then
Mhm.
he runs away all excited, right? And then I get up and I think to myself like, how the fuck is this cool? Like how the fuck is this normal? Like how have we been so conditioned in America to think that shootouts and guns are such a normal part of our childhood? And again, like it's the culture. Like I think to me that's a more serious conversation to have than two girls kissing in a movie, you know. uh Again, nothing against guns, but since we're talking about things that shouldn't be shown to children, what about that?
Well, guns are you teach gun safety. You've always played, like you say, they're gonna come after you because you were shooting Indians. They're gonna call you a racist or something.
That's okay.
But
I got some red skin on me. It's okay.
I don't think we have a gun problem. I think we have a mental problem. I think we have an education problem. Um, I don't see guns as a problem. I remember I gifted, it was about 10 years ago. I went to a birthday party for a little boy and I took him a Nerf gun and the mom gave it back to me. She was angry. But to me, I don't know what to say about this because I don't see any issues with guns. I am gonna give my daughter a gun before she leaves to college if she decides wherever she goes, because I want her to be safe. It's a way to protect yourself. I think we give guns to children to play in a way to show them um, how to protect themselves. How you don't. I My dad doesn't like guns. My dad was always anti-gun, but my brother owns a lot of guns. It's just
Let me give you a perspective and let me see what you think about it. If you control, because you mentioned a lot of things that could be behind our the mass murder situation here in this country. That's only unique to this country. When it comes to mass shootings, um, we American exceptionalism, right? We're just the best. We're the best at mass shootings.
no. There's mass shootings in other countries.
No, I'm not
It's
saying
not
there's
only
not.
USA.
I'm not saying there's not, but so that was my point. Is that America is number one. I think we racked up like this year alone, we're already at close to we're approaching about 300 mass shootings. The
But
next the,
okay,
the next but hold on. The next country that's close to the United States is Mexico, and they have like 8 or 9. So just the gap between the mass shootings that we have compared to everybody
no,
else is
okay. In
huge.
Mexico, you're not supposed to have a gun, so I don't know why they're number two. But because criminals don't get guns. The thing about the mass shooting, and this is what I learned this weekend, and we're gonna have him as a guest, Victor Avila. When you have when there's a shooting that has more than three people, it's automatically considered a mass shooting. If
Correct.
there's a husband that kills himself and kills, his family, like a murder suicide,
Right.
that's considered a mass shooting.
Correct.
And it's not. It's a different type. It is it should be a homicide and a suicide.
Okay.
It doesn't go into the mass shooting. The
Right.
mass shooting, a lot of people think that it's when somebody goes into a public space and starts shooting.
Right. So my point here is this, is that if you correct for all of the same things that a lot of Republicans say are the issue, mental health, right? If you correct for single parent households, if you correct for I mean, what else do conservatives say is the issue for mass shootings?
I
It's always broken homes, and it's always mental health, right? If you correct for these issues, and if you take into account the statistics, the United States has about 23% of its children growing up in single parent households. The UK, Britain, is about 22%, right? When it comes to mental health, there's countries across the board that are just as they're dealing with mental health as bad as we are. Canada's one, again, Mexico is another one. Yet if you control for all of these reasons, the common denominator is always the same. The difference between us and these countries is our easy access to guns. Like, I agree with you, guns aren't the problem, it's the access to the guns that are the problem. So like I said, if you correct for mental health, like, I don't agree that that's an issue, right? If you correct for broken homes, again, I don't disagree. Yet other countries that are facing these same crises of mental health and single parent households don't have the kind of gun violence that we have in this country, right? So what's the common denominator here? It's the fact that we just have too easy access to guns. There's about 400 million guns in America. There's 350 million citizens. That's 120 guns for every 100 citizens. If you're going to tell me that there's not a problem with access to guns, I mean, I don't know how you make that case.
I I don't believe guns are the issue. I honestly don't believe guns are the issue. I believe that, I mean, look at you mentioned Mexico. Mexico, you're not supposed to have guns there, and it
Right.
still happens. We go to even here to Chicago. Chicago has one of the strictest gun laws, and yet there's a shooting almost every day, every weekend. There's in the double digits. So to me, it's not a gun problem. It is
Right,
going to
right.
be
But
a mental health. We
the
need
issue,
to invest more into our mental health, and then we have governors like Greg Abbott that takes money away from the mental health.
very good point.
So why are we taking away money from the problem? I believe that with especially after COVID, after and even before COVID, and COVID just made things worse. There's a lot of people that have a lot of mental issues and that need the help.
But then how do you explain? I mean, COVID wasn't just an American phenomenon, it was a global phenomenon.
Hmm.
And other people suffered the exact same kind of mental issues that people in America suffered. But yet the same kind of violence doesn't exist, or not, I should say doesn't exist, but the same kind of violence is not as, you know, uh,
The isn't I mean,
pervasive as it
but
is here in
we
America.
have there's other type of attacks. I mean, we have the UK who's leading in knife attacks because they don't have guns. They don't have access to guns.
But
So there's a lot.
I would rather be attacked by a knife than a gun.
And we have, I mean, even the vehicles that there's always going to be something. So to me, it's not a gun issue.
Right, right.
I don't believe in giving up our guns. I don't believe in putting any more.
But no, but nobody's making the argument to give up your guns. Like, so this is one of the things that I don't understand about this argument, is that there is a difference between gun regulation and gun confiscation. There is a difference between regulation and
Hmm.
confiscation. I want to say that one more time. There is a difference between regulation and confiscation. When I talk about regulation, people act like I'm talking about confiscation. It's like, there is a difference. When I say, look, maybe kids at age 18 shouldn't be able to go walk in a store and buy an AR-15. I'm not saying, Myra, you can't own an AR-15. I'm saying kids shouldn't be able to walk into a store, and I mean, most of the regulations being proposed wouldn't even affect you, wouldn't even affect most gun owners, but yet they react as if by mentioning the most lukewarm and
Mm-hmm.
milk toast regulation, like I'm somehow, you know, assaulting your Second Amendment right to own a gun. I'm not. Nobody's mentioning that. You shouldn't react
Well,
that way when people are mentioning basic regulations.
we do have. I mean, it's part of their rights. I don't believe in putting those type of regulations.
What do you mean? It's part of the rights
It's our
because
constitutional right. It's I mean they
but you
turn
don't have a
18, they
right.
can go they go to war, they get to the military, they're given a gun.
We're right, but they're
Why can't you
trained.
give it a gun to well you
But
train your
right, but
child.
they're
You
trained. But they not only are they trained, they go through a rigorous training process. I mean, so if we made it to where if you're going to buy a gun, but you have to go to the same kind of military training, that would you be for that? Would you be for that regulation?
no.
That's my point. That's my point. Is that it's just I mean, you talk about your rights, but you don't have a right to a tank. You don't have a right to a shoulder mounted RPG, do you? You don't have a right to a nuclear weapon. You don't have a right to a intercontinental ballistic missile, do you?
Can I get one?
Good luck with the CIA, though.
No,
No,
I don't
but
believe in any
right,
infringements. I don't believe
but
in regulations.
because we understand the reason why you don't have access to a intercontinental ballistic missile. Number one is because they're probably fucking expensive, but number two, because we understand that there are limits to the Second Amendment. There are limits to what civilians could get their hands on. That's a good thing. That's a good thing that people aren't allowed to just roll down the streets in fucking tanks. You know, like we're not the wild wild west. Like this is the wild wild west. Like I'm sorry, but this whole like don't tread on me. You can't take. Oh, shut up. It's like we understand at a basic level, and the courts have agreed on this. The Supreme Court's interpretation of the Second Amendment agrees with me that there are basic regulations that could be passed federally that could be put in place to hopefully try to stop things like this. Again, there's already too many guns on the streets. You're never going to
There's
stop.
other things that you could put in place instead of regulating laws. There's other
Well,
I don't
well,
think you
unfortunately, all the other things that are proposed are rejected 100% by Republicans all the time. You just said it yourself.
I no, I
Greg
think
Abbott and mental health. I mean, he goes on stage and complains about mental health while rejecting millions of dollars for mental health facilities. It's like, what are you trying to prove, man? Like, are you about it, or are you just up here
yeah, I
just
mean, like I said,
playing
I
a
mean,
political game?
I'm criticizing Greg Abbott, but there's other things that we can put in place, other safeties we can put. That's why I want to bring Victor. We can put.
We should have him on next week.
I need to check his schedule. I'll check his schedule. But there's he talked about it, and there's other types of security that we can put into schools. I mean, we secure every other places, we secure places, but we're not securing our schools the way we should.
Um, like what? Arming teachers,
Arming some teachers. We're not saying all teachers. We're
right?
saying
But
arming some teachers, and we're also putting police officers, not the security guards that we have, but trained police officers, retired military, putting technology into the schools that can detect guns
all
from.
of that stuff was in place in Uvalde. You had trained officers
Mm-mm.
sitting on their ass outside of the
They
school.
didn't do anything. They deserve to. Yeah, they
Exactly. Like
deserve
so, so,
to.
so the whole like good guys with guns argument. Like
They
I've heard,
weren't in the schools though.
I've heard that's the point. Is that they didn't do their job.
I know. No,
But
I'm
but
saying
there was
putting
one.
the police officers inside the school,
But there
in
was
the school,
one. There was one officer inside the school. I mean, they call him a
unarmed.
resource. Yes,
Hmm.
they call him a resource officer, but I mean, he's a police officer, and he didn't do anything.
No, yeah, that's another thing. I mean, police officers that want to be there to protect, because even down here, I was talking to a friend of mine, and you see the guards that are in the schools, they're just there and they don't want to be there. We
Right.
want officers that want to protect their children, but we're getting close to the 1 hour mark.
Yeah, just last point, real quick. In Parkland, in Florida, what happened? The same thing happened. There was a good guy with a gun that just didn't have
Mhm.
what it took to stand up and face the situation that he was getting paid to do.
Well,
Uh,
he was a useless guy with a gun then.
well, I mean,
To me, is
it
you need to
happens.
put people that
It
want to
happens.
protect.
And
Yeah.
just real quick on the army teachers, and like I said, we're at the 1 hour mark. We are some of our districts barely get enough money to to be able to afford books from the decade. And now you want to spend money to you think these same districts are going to be buying guns with the special ammunition that it takes to not ricochet off concrete. Like there's so many the training, the
Hmm.
constant training. It's practically I don't see it. I don't see it happening. I see police officers going into the school shooting. They see a teacher with a gun. They don't know if I see confusion. I see it adding more guns to a dangerous situation always makes the situation worse. That's just my opinion.
Well, I disagree with your opinion. I
So
think we need to arm people.
I guess, I guess to be continued. So
Okay.
that is, I mean, there was a lot that we didn't even get into um, today. Is there any last words that you want to say, Mar?
No, I just hope you join us next week, and let me see. I'll check on Victor's schedule to see when he can come on. But that's it. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, guys, that was today's Battle Lines podcast. I hope you enjoyed the different perspective. There's gonna be a lot more of these, and we're hopefully we can just give you guys a good entertaining conversation. Hopefully you can learn some stuff or you can educate us. We're always open to learning, and we're always open to new ideas, and we hope you join us next week for Battle Lines. Myra, enjoy your Sunday.
Happy Father's Day.
Thank you. No, bye.
Bye.